Your every wish.
Love it.
That's the famous picture that launched 1,000 ships. And so, Crystal, so you are our Facebook post of the week. And tell us about that, how that came about. I think we talked about it last week, but they didn't see the picture.
Tell it again.
Okay,
Yes,
and then what happened since then? You've added on to this.
It was so funny to me, actually, because I'm not a big Facebooker, but I pulled in the driveway, and my van was sitting there because I drive my electric car around when I'm doing short trips, and I saw the pollen all over it, and I walked up to it thinking I was going to write "wash me" on it, so my husband might get the hint and help me out. But and I stood there for a second thinking, wow, I could write anything I want on here, and then I just thought, okay, let's do this. And I wrote it, took the picture, posted it on Facebook, and that was last Wednesday, about 3 o'clock. And I got some immediate response and people asking questions. I wrote a little blurb that you see here about how we don't have any allergies in our house anymore, and we threw out all of our medications. And people started asking me, well, tell me, what did you do? And one of my friends from the chamber challenged me out there, posted on that picture on Facebook to, well, Crystal, why don't you make a video to answer their questions? Of course, he's the guy who taught me how to do videos a year ago, but I never did them. My iPad. So I said, okay, fine, Hans, I'll do a video. And so I just went outside and did video and didn't remember how to do all the editing and everything, so I was stuck with what I had. And I put it out there, took me till 10:30 at night. Took me half an hour to get the video made, and then another 4 hours to figure out how to put it to Facebook. But I did it.
That sounds about right.
So that video has that was last Wednesday about 10:30. I posted it, and then that Thursday morning I was on this webinar, and I mentioned it because we were talking about allergies, and I had a lot of Shaklee people asked to be my friend on Facebook, and so I friended them, and then they shared my video. And so long story short, I now am only about 30 more views away from 3,000 views.
Wow. I love it.
And now I've made a part 2 video because I realized after I made it, I really focused on the supplements, and I didn't mention the Get Clean products, which we did before starting on the supplements, and I didn't mention any dietary changes that we had made, and I did take the sugar out of our diets for the most part where I could, and added in protein and vegetables. And so I'm going to make that a part 3 video, the diet, and then I did the Get Clean one a couple days ago. I'll be posting that short.
Wow.
That's really great.
That's wonderful.
And it's those kinds of personalized posts, I think, that really attract most people.
It's just so real. It's honest, it's real, and people can sense it, and that's why it works, you know?
Yeah.
Well, this is probably a good time for us. We have 2 sessions left after today of our spring semester. Then we're going to be taking a break in May. I probably should have made a slide about that, Joe, now that I'm thinking about it. Going to be taking a break in the month of May because we want to give you enough ideas and PV collections to promote in the month of May, and then we will return in June. And in June and July, we will do another 8 weeks to director summer school program, similar to what we did last summer that was so popular. And one of the things that we're learning as we go here is how increasingly Facebook is playing a role in our businesses. And I think we're learning more and more about how to utilize it well. And Crystal, I mean, I love that you appreciated it took 4 hours to figure out how to actually post that video. But you know what? the first time it's going to take 4 hours. The next time it's not.
Right.
And I remember Stephanie Bruce saying the same thing, and Michelle, when they were, Stephanie was starting to make some videos of an instructional nature for her leaders. And, at first there's a learning curve with these things. And but then once you get it, it's such a highway of information in that Facebook venue. So I love that you did this. Love that you've had the results. You've already had one new member, and you took the collections, you took the information, and you did it in a very professional way. Well done. I just love what you did.
And that concept, Barb, applies to everything that we've been teaching and to today's session. The first few times you do something, you feel a little awkward, it's a little uncomfortable. That doesn't mean you stop doing it. You do more of it, so you get better.
That's right.
That's right. And can I just say, I really want to thank all of my Shaklee friends for asking to be my friend and for liking it, because let me bring it full circle on how it works and is working in my business now. So I got a lot of new Shaklee friends who are already distributors sharing the video. So I'm really not going to get new members from that. But what that did for me was it allowed me to go to my Chamber of Commerce Power Networking Lunch on Tuesday and stand up and in my 30-second commercial say, hey, I have an allergies video out on Facebook.
Nice.
It's gotten 2,000 views. You guys should go check it out. So it turned my 30-second commercial into a 5-minute and 30-second commercial. It sent them to my Facebook page to get the message that I didn't have time to give them. So
Very
now I'm to reach into the people that I do want to reach to get new members.
And actually, would you just take a moment, Crystal, to explain to everyone that how that works and how that benefited you, and when we go to somebody's website and we borrow something that they have placed on their website, the best way that we can thank them, so to explain that to them.
Well, I am learning this along the way, Barb, so someone else is probably more the expert, but yes, it helped me when people went to my Facebook page, they shared my video, and then they made a little comment that mentioned me in that video, so it ties it all together out there on Facebook and allows people to get back to me and get to the person who shared it, and so it increases everybody's exposure and views.
Right.
Very good. Okay. And now, Katie Bird, are you there? Oh, I know you're muted. Okay. So, Katie, when you unmute for a minute, Katie, we want to announce, is a brand new executive coordinator. And there she is. That's at the end of March. It's really very, very exciting.
Exciting.
And it's a major accomplishment. The company considers executive coordinator really your entry into the senior ranks of Shaklee. And Katie is in the middle of a move. She's got to be out of her house in the next, all up, packed up in the next week, and then she's got the regional, and then she's got Maui, and then she's got the new director. I mean, she's going to be living out of her parents' house because the next house isn't ready yet, and it's like, oh my God. Anyway, so Katie, have you unmuted yet?
I'm here. I had to switch over. My husband was calling me really quick.
Okay, it's good. All right. We're going to be featuring Katie in a special segment that we're going to call The Road to Executive Coordinator. But
love it.
Would you want to just say, just sort of as a opening for today's session, a little bit about what that journey was like for you for the last 2.5 years, right?
Yeah, well, it's kind of unreal the last month, but I think as I am looking back, just briefly, a couple things that just come to my mind is being committed to your business, and we'll talk about that today, but, it hasn't always been easy. I've gone through obstacles, I've gone through disappointments, I've gone through difficulties, but I've always been committed, really since the beginning. I've been committed to trying to learn as much about the products as possible, about Shaklee as possible. I've always been really committed to conferences. In fact, I don't think I've missed any regional conferences, and I always share that I was 38 or 39 weeks pregnant, and I still went to the conference because because that's my commitment, and I think that's really important because
we were all nervous, but she was fine.
Especially when you get on stage and speak in front of a bunch of people. But I think that's really what has grounded me to get through the last couple years and to allow me to grow. I also think that when we are talking about Shaklee, I can't help but bring in the fact that the business has been the best part about Shaklee. And I'm just so passionate about helping other people to experience what I've experienced. And when you are able to, like we're going to talk about today, coach and develop leaders, it just gets better and better because there's no greater joy than having a team member that you have assisted and you have helped reach their goals. In fact, I think it's even greater than when you reach your own goals because you know that you are impacting their family and their friends, and it's just that Shaklee effect. It's the trickle effect. But yeah, we have a lot of good things that I'm going to be sharing in the next week about that, and I will keep you all up to date with that.
Right, so she doesn't get buried in her boxes. We're going to have her to talk about that. Oh, boy. Okay, so I realized that when we start our trainings that we really need to properly introduce our trainers. And so Katie, new executive coordinator, and in 2.5 years. So that's why I want you to know how qualified they are to share what they do. And the other one is our dear friend and colleague from Colorado, senior executive coordinator, Lisa Anderson. And Lisa has been in the business how many years now, Lisa?
Well, I think, I officially started it 14 years ago, but I worked very, very part-time for a lot of years raising my sweet 4 babies, and it's just been a really cool thing to watch my business become more when I'm ready for it to become more, if that makes sense. So,
absolutely, and that's the beauty of it. And actually, that and Lisa has qualified for not only the Shaklee Dream Trips each year, but she is qualified for this super duper
top achiever
one and got to go to Kenya, and so she has really focused on building an organization, and so she brings all of that expertise. And then we have today joining us Becky Choate, and Becky has been in Shaklee, what did we decide, 17 years?
It'll be 17 years in June, yep.
17 years, and Becky has an inspiring story she's going to share with us today. And so she has a lot of a long history with Shaklee, but she's also now become a part of the new Shaklee, the new dream plan development of leaders, the new thinking, embracing the new technologies that are helping make our businesses so much easier today. And so they are our team for teaching us about coaching today. And we're lucky to have them. So shall we get started, Joe?
Absolutely, Barb.
Okie dokie. Okay, Lisa.
All right. Well, today it's going to be a really good day, and I'm very excited about this topic because it's something that is so crucial to the success of a growing business. And so it's something I've worked hard on, I continue to work hard on, and I think it's going to be a really good day. So here's our objectives for session 13 inside the coaching process. So in this spring semester, we've really focused on the skills and ideas of getting to director and above and beyond, creating directors. Today we're going to go deep into the process of what a coaching session looks like, because really this is the method of growing people. And we are in a business of people development. And so this is the skill set to growing people. So we're going to talk about coaching sessions that are weekly and monthly, and there's different types of those, and how you work with a person to help them grow and move ahead. And so we're going to hear from different people that come from the aspect of having been coached, from coaching others, and we'll talk a little bit about, just that mentoring, and really we're going to kind of delve into the aspects of that and what it looks like. And so the goal is for all of us to be better coaches and planning partners and helping the people that want to grow and be successful. So I am excited.
It's a good day.
Yes.
So we're going to begin with Becky Choate's story. So, Becky, I'm going to let you tell it, but it began 17 years ago. So kind of tell them what has happened in your business in the last 6 months.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry, I was getting ready to say something else, and I'm like, start where you want to start. It's okay. Okay. Let me just give a little bit of a background just for people who may not know me. But I did build 17 years ago. I had 3 little kids when we started. They were 4, 3, and 1. I was a speech pathologist home on a 2-year break because when you have 3 kids in 3.5 years, all your paycheck goes to daycare. So I thought I would just stay home, and then my plan was to go back when our oldest went to kindergarten. And it was during that time that I found Shaklee, and it took me a little bit to get my idea around doing this as a business, but once I did, I was committed and really was very driven to be able to have this be my avenue to stay home. And so by year 5, I had replaced my full-time income, which was probably at that time about $30,000 as a speech pathologist, and
full-time $30,000.
Yeah.
And working part-time. Wow. I worked about 15 hours a week for my Shaklee business, but I was very committed to those 15 hours.
Wow.
But probably after year 5, my kids are now in elementary school. We're scooting through junior high and high school. I really have kind of breezed along. That income was great. We were able to do so many things, pay off finished basements, buy new cars, go on vacations, all of that because of the income that I had, and I was available. That was the biggest thing, was the time freedom of being available. So to be honest, I didn't have a lot of things to compel me to do anymore because I felt good where I was. I felt like we were in a good spot. So this past year, we have moved to a new state, and our youngest son is a senior in high school right now, and so kind of on that timeline on the second part of the sheet, after the August convention, I joined an accountability circle, who I love. They're awesome ladies, and just because of different things, my PV had dropped. I usually was around $7,000 a month, and it had dropped to about $5,000. So with their encouragement and ideas and that kind of thing, I was able to bring my volume back up in a short amount of time back to that 7,000 PV. Then I've had lots of coaches in my time, primarily Barb and Laura Toso, Margaret Trost and Tammy Johnson, all my uplines and all excellent coaches. But there was a particular call, and Barb knows it, and it was in November, and she was calling to see where I was at, was I going to be at the Lagoni conference, the January conference, just what I was thinking about. And I'll go into a little bit more detail about that a little bit later, but that was really a kind of a line in the sand. And she asked some questions. She didn't tell me anything. She asked questions that prompted me, that brought things out of me that I wasn't even really aware that were there, and kind of gave me a new reason to grow again. So with that, I really changed my thinking, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. And for me, and I don't know if this is the way it is for everybody, but for me, where my head is, that's where I'm going to go. So if I am not working on my head and my thinking about who I'm being, as I'm doing my business, I'm not going to go anywhere. If I am nourishing that, and if I'm doing something in my head work, then actually I've seen it happen too many times within myself. It will propel me forward. So anyway, with that, I'm communicating with my group. My awesome friend and new director, Cassie Anderson, broke out in February. I have another wonderful friend and associate, Francine, who hit 1,500 last month. She's headed for director soon. And then Amy Petrovich is getting re-engaged, and she was a director before and would like to move towards that again. And so really quickly, all of a sudden, I have all this activity in my group, but I do believe that a lot of it came from the things that happened last fall. Well, and I'll go into more detail later in the call.
How exciting. That's amazing. I love it.
Excellent. Okay, so Katie, let's talk about the different types of coaching sessions.
All right. So it's really important as we think about our coaching that we are reminded of being coachable. I think it's really important, and this never changes in our business. In fact, I feel almost like I'm being more coached now than I was a couple of years ago, but it's important to identify who is ready to grow in your business, and you want to put your time there. So if somebody is coming to you and approaching you and saying, help me, I want to grow, I would love your leadership, those are the people that you really want to dedicate your time to. So once you determine who's ready to go, help them get started, help them create a plan. And I will tell you, there are so many times when we get halfway through the month and we're thinking, oh no, the month's not going as planned. In fact, around the 13th, 14th every month, my phone starts ringing a little bit more. So it's important to plan at the beginning of the month, and it's important to develop that plan with your upline, and to have ongoing strategy calls. In fact, these are continual. These are almost on a weekly, if not daily basis with those people. So as we think about our coaching sessions, we're going to think about these being a series of conversations. I love how Becky talked about how when Barb was calling her, it was a conversation. I can tell you so many times when Barb calls me and she goes, okay, what's going on now? And she lets me just talk a little bit about what's going on in my life, and then we get into business, because we can't talk about the business until we get through what's going on in our lives. There are some times when we have personal things going on. There are times when we're in the midst of having babies and moving, or perhaps different things are happening with our families, and that's okay. Make sure that you share that with your leaders so they know where you're at, and give them permission to, at some times in their journey, they're just going to be maintaining their business. And other times in their journey, they're going to really be looking to eagerly grow. And that's okay, wherever people are at in their journey. And then also, stay connected. So whether this is on a weekly basis, I love to try and connect with my leaders on a Monday, and then also on Friday to just see how the week is going, or through just email or text messaging or Facebook messaging. The important thing is that we're continually connected to one another so that we know what's going on and we know how we can help them and we can troubleshoot. Sometimes we're just not aware the difficulties that some of our team members are facing until we get on the phone with them. And I always try, sometimes this can be hard because I'm a big texter and I'm a big Facebook messenger, but a lot of times what I've realized that Harper and our team has really just modeled is you have to get on the phone. So I realized that there are some issues that Harper has taught me, let's talk about this. We can't talk about this over text messaging or over Facebook messaging. We have to get on the phone. And that, I'll tell you, that's probably a bigger issue for my generation than perhaps an older generation, because we're not used to that. A lot of people our age, they don't get on the phone anymore. And so that was a learning curve for me, and still is, to be on the phone, because not many people are on the phone nowadays. And so
good point.
That's been a good headset. Barb always says that. But, you can be folding laundry and you can be doing things while you're talking. Now, when you're doing a planning session, you don't want to be distracted, and we'll talk about that more later. But when I'm doing a planning session with somebody, that's the time when I either decide to go on a walk and get my exercise in, so all I'm focused on is the call, or I will literally just sit somewhere and I'll just enjoy talking, and I'll enjoy strategy. It's a time to really just sit back and to focus, because sometimes we get so into multitasking, and our brains can't do more than one thing at a time, at times in our business. So it's important as we think about these coaching sessions to remember that. And then sometimes our sessions will be monthly when people are just looking to establish or maintain their business. And then sometimes they're quarterly when they're in maintenance and you're just calling to check in. And I think Lisa's going to talk about the purpose of coaching.
Excellent.
Right. So when we look into the coaching process and we look into this role as a business leader, you really do want to make sure that you're viewing this coaching session for all that it can be. So here's a nice list of the purpose that you can bring through.
Lisa, I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. Somebody has they're getting feedback from their computer.
Yeah,
so
I hear it too.
Yeah, just turn off the volume on your computer, and then you won't get that feedback. Okay, good. I'm sorry, hon. Carry on.
It's okay. I'm trying to figure out where it's coming from too. So, okay, but you guys can hear me good now, right?
No.
Yeah, we're still getting that feedback, but that's okay. We'll get it straightened out.
Okay, yeah, I'm not sure where it's coming from.
Okay.
So,
I think it was over on Becky.
I just muted Becky. It must have been coming from her.
Yeah, so just turn the volume off on your computer, Becky, and then you won't get that. Okay, carry on. Yeah, because this is real important. This is talking about the purpose of these coaching sessions. Go ahead.
Yeah. So really, one of the main things you want to do is to recognize that this is the place where you're going to help them create their goals, right? But you can't just get right to that. There's some things that have to kind of be unpacked and unlayered first. But really, a big objective of a coaching session is to help identify goals, get some clarity and direction in their work, right? And then you want to help understand their strengths and their limitations. And this all comes through conversations and asking questions. It really is the key. If you're going to have a good coaching session, you have to be prepared to ask and listen. Just like everything else in our business, it is absolutely crucial, right?
Where have we heard that before, right?
I know, we harp on it, but it's so true. And then we're going to, based upon the identification of their schedule and what time they have, help them create that action plan. And then it's really an important role of a coaching session to identify their skills and to, I think, inspire and encourage them towards growing their skills. So I love this term skill up that, we've kind of borrowed, I think, from this whole process here. And it's important that we all have the proper mindset of increasing our skills, but it's a great time in the coaching session to talk about those skills and to encourage and direct people and give ideas and resources, right, to increase those skills. And this is important. So being ready to offer a story is that, sorry, that I heard that and it threw me off, is as we're listening and talking and hearing, and it's going to be natural that we're going to start to kind of pull out some of the troubles, right? Some of the difficulties, and it's going to, and that's just the way it is. It's part of it, and it's going to be very helpful to be able to relate to some of the things they're going through. So the idea of being able to offer a story, many times it'll be things, I remember going through that. Sometimes my leaders will have a story of a presentation gone bad, and boy, I have some doozies I can pull out. And then we just laugh, and and this, well, I won't tell you this one. But anyways, it's just important to be able to let them know they're not alone and that people have been going through these kinds of things.
Also, I think, Lisa, to share a story of somebody that you say, well, I was on a webinar, I just heard this gal talking about what's been happening in her business, and she's having some really great growth. We can paint a picture of people that are growing to encourage them. Also.
Oh, you're so right, Joe. That's so important because a large part of this is helping with shaping their perspective and their thinking. And so by sharing a story of someone that maybe is in a similar situation or that has overcome a similar, obstacle or challenge, what you're doing is you're helping them have a broader perspective. So that is really important, and you're giving them a picture of their own success by sharing someone else's. So it's a big part of what we do is helping people see what they can't see and helping people kind of believe in and anchor to the things that you believe in and you can see for them. So it is just, and again, it's all conversational and listening, and it's a really big piece. So you're going to affirm them, acknowledge them. The encouragement and inspirational piece of this is big. And so as you kind of get into this, and I agree with everything Katie said, I am a firm believer. I set an hour aside. I do not try to coach in 5 minutes. I mean, there's little touch bases, but if we're actually working together, and I expect them to have the time too, and I also expect them to not be washing the dishes and walking the dog or doing homework with the kids at the same time. It really is
grocery shopping.
Or grocery shopping, or going through the bank, all of these things, because we have an hour together, and I believe amazing things can happen in that hour, but we have to both be present, and we have to both, and we can tie our brains together and make really good stuff happen. So you do want to value and treat these coaching sessions as valuable, because really they're important. So as you're closing them, it's always good to have an action step and to kind of recap. Okay, so this is what's going to happen, right? And you kind of recap that, and they're on their way. So Katie.
Excellent.
Right. So key steps of the coaching process. Like I talked about, it's important to take inventory of what's going on in their current business and life when you check in, and begin with that. Hey, how are you doing? What's going on with this situation that you know is a big situation in their life? Let them talk and just share what's going on. And sometimes they just need somebody to listen to them for a while. And so it's important to get an idea of where they're at, and then identify what they want to achieve next. See what it is that their goals are. See where they're frustrated. See where they feel stuck. And then help them to envision them achieving even more than they can see. And as we were planning this last night, this was something that really stuck out to all of us, because a lot of times when we begin our journey, or when we get started, or when we're trying to get to director, we can't see beyond that. We can't see the potential in front of us to be able to qualify for a car payment, or to be able to go on a trip, or to be able to develop an incredible team of people. So it's up to us that we allow our vision for what they are able to see. And I see this so often. In fact, I always think of Laura Gugi, because I talked to Laura Gugi when I first started in the business, because I knew that Laura was a teacher, and I knew that Laura loved to help people. And so I saw her doing a business. And she had told me, that it seems great, but not right now. And we continue to stay connected. And sure enough, about a year later, she decided to give Shaklee a try. And I will joke with her now. I'll say, I always knew that this could be a great potential. You didn't see it, but I saw it. And I see that with a couple girls that just recently got started. I have big plans for them in my head, because I know the potential that I see for them. So even when they don't yet see that, we as the leader can see that. Barb would tell me, when you're director, when you're executive coordinator, and I would want to laugh at her, because I'd think, oh, Barb, that's so funny. But she has everyone, having big plans, and that helps our brains too. And then ask what they want to learn. Ask what they want to get better at. And I think that's really important, that we help them to identify where they're stuck, where to be a problem solver through inside-out coaching. So most obstacles are solved by a shift in our thinking, which is really important. If we ask the right questions, they will come up with the solution. They will be the ones to solve where they're stuck. And then brainstorm ideas. And Lisa talked about this, and I think this is really important, that we don't have any distractions in front of us, which is really important, so that we can just focus on helping coach and on brainstorming, clarify the strategy, and then here's the important thing: close with a written action plan. Yes. There is accountability in our coaching calls. We want to make sure that we hold each other accountable. Hey, how did that presentation go? How did that event go? Harper's asking me, when I tell her I want to talk to somebody, she'll say, how did that call go? How did this go? And she's holding me accountable. And she's also checking in to see how how it goes. And so as we think about these conversations, it's important that we are reminded of the 3 key elements of a conversation. The first one is the tell me about, which is really important. Tell me about what's going on right now in your life. Tell me about your business. Tell me about. Then acknowledging, as they're sharing, acknowledge where they're at and acknowledge the things that they have been doing. I've been seeing you post on Facebook consistently. I love what you're doing on Facebook. I love how you're doing Facebook events. I love that you're going to do an in-home coming up. I love how you shared that advice with somebody. Just look for ways to acknowledge people. And then lastly, identify their reason for growing. This is what keeps us grounded, their why. Check in with them and say, I know that can you tell me what is the most important thing about your Shaklee business? And then they start thinking, oh yeah, I started this because, and they're reminded of their why.
Very good. Very good.
We're getting some background noises. It sounds like it's coming from a mic. So those of us that have mics, make sure that
nothing's... You're not rubbing them or something. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to try to unmute Becky again. I don't know why. Her volume was just fine.
Okay.
Till then. Go ahead, Lisa. You start. Mm-hmm.
All right. So when we're looking at moving into this, and we want to kind of look at the different steps, I think the first thing, and no matter what type of coaching call you're having, is to do some sort of assessment, right? So that's where these questions come in, and you say, well, tell me how you're feeling about your business. Sometimes I'll say, okay, so when looking at your business, what do you think is going the best? What is the thing you're most excited about? I'll ask leaders, what do you think you're best at? What is your skill? Because it's a great place to talk and discover, and then you can really utilize and create that action plan, honing in on those skills and those things that they're confident and they know they're good at. But then you say, okay, so what do you think is the weakest part of your business? So what are the biggest obstacles that you're dealing with? So just a few questions to kind of start to, again, pull back the layers of what's going on in their mind about their business and where they're at. You have to assess before you can plan and then strategize. You must, right? So there's some questions, and then you can kind of, you want to listen and be very, very intense, because a lot of times they'll be saying things that they don't realize they're saying, and then you can gently redirect and bring them to that. So again, remember, people don't buy what. Yeah, are you there?
Can you hear me? Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Go ahead.
And I think one of the things that I so appreciated when being coached is I am an out loud processor. Yes. And so by my coach, whoever it is asking me questions, I'm answering them. And then sometimes I'll use a strategy. So what I heard you say was blah, blah, blah. And that is actually really revealing to me, because sometimes what I said is what I said. But it was like, I didn't realize that's how I was coming across. But it's like I didn't even know it until I heard it said back to me. Right. And so that's just something to be aware of. I don't think that everybody is an out loud processor. I think some people do it inside, but it is really helpful for us to verbalize what is going on inside.
I just think you're so right, Becky. And sometimes you'll be in a conversation, and as someone is sharing with you, you can see the light bulb going off for them as they're hearing themselves talk about it. And you can almost sense a huge sigh of relief, almost as of a burden is being lifted, because it's starting to make sense. And you're so right, they have to hear it themselves. And then you move into this place where the creativity can really flow. So I think that is absolutely key. And again, it goes back to what they're saying is the most important thing. You're just the guidance director, right? You're just guiding them down the process, right, and opening the doors so that they can have the revelation. So I'm so glad that you said that, because it's a big deal. So again, and then you're going to kind of review some of the heart of the matter, why they're doing it and the resources. And then it's really important, really for any meeting we have, be it with a member or a business leader, is to then set the date for the next conversation. Okay, so let's check back in. It's exactly what Katie said. It creates a little bit of built-in accountability, and I think it just provides a structure that's really helpful for people to use to build. So
I wanted to go back to one of the original points, Lisa, too, about asking questions, finding out where people are in their life or what's going on in their life, because like it says, if their life is in turmoil, if you say, well, how are things going this week, or tell me what's happening in your life, and they say, oh my gosh, the in-laws are here, the kids are on spring break, the washing machine just broke down. You don't tell them to buckle up and you're going to move forward with that strategy session.
Get over it.
You've got to, we have to be real sensitive to where people are at, not only in their business, but in their real life,
Mm-hmm. It's true. Yeah.
And if you don't tune in to who they are, and, I was reminded of a quote when you were both just talking a moment ago, from my friend Robbie Sweeney. She said, life is what happens when you're making other plans. Such a great quote. Life is what happens when you're making other plans. And life happens for everybody. And if we don't pause to be present for them and what's happening in their life, this is when we go back when we talked about what is our relationship with our leaders. And it's one of being an advocate that we talked about. See, what happens when you set goals, we've got some noise on that microphone again, is when you set goals, they're your goals. You have goals. You have goals for reaching a new rank. And we need to have those goals, and we got to have them up in front of us. Now, knowing that, now we start coaching people who are going to get us to those goals, right? But now it's not about our goals. It's got to be about their goals.
Right.
And this is a real skill of leadership. It's when you get outside yourself and you are totally focused on what's best for them. That's what we mean when we say that we always stand as an advocate for them. What's best for them. If we don't, if it's all about us and us reaching our goals, they'll know it, and they will go away. And it'll be very frustrating. And so it's that whole thing Dr. Shackley said about what you think is what comes out of your mouth. And what you think is what you say and do and are. And so it's a skill for us to learn about our thinking and making sure that everything we do is about them. That's why I was just thinking as you all were talking that one of the bullet points I need to add here is take a MindWorks before you start the planning session, because we're saying you got to think about this and you got to think about where they are in their life and so on. And to me, that's the creative part of our business, because while there are certain basic principles that we follow and there are certain key steps that we follow. Everybody watch where the noise is coming from, because there's noise on the microphone. There's key steps that we follow, but how it presents itself, the personalities of the people they're working with, that's where the creative process comes in. And you have to be fully present to figure that out. And that's the fun of the business to me. It's like figuring it out. And when you do it together, when you create this space between you and your leader, and together you're brainstorming, click, 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 that feels so great. Run ideas by each other, and you create a safe place where you can run an idea by, and someone's not going to stomp all over it and say, maybe what about this idea? And so that's what we're going for here. Really love what you're all presenting here. Okay, Katie.
Well, it reminded me of being able to go to the Future Masters last year and how exciting that was. And one of the speakers got up, I think it was Rick Seymour, and he said he had a percentage, and it said 99% thinking business, that almost our entire business revolves around our thinking and our thought process. And if we're not connected to our uplines, we can get discouraged. We can get down. So it's important that we are there to help them, but also for ourselves, that we are setting goals that does take us outside of what we might think we might be able to accomplish. I tell people all the time, I did not start exactly thinking where I would be today, but it was just a matter of staying committed and planning and strategizing and working hard too. All of those things that allowed me to be where I am today. So as we think through our goals most people begin with little goals. I will tell you, a lot of times when I ask people when they start the business, one of their initial goals is to get their products free. That's a great place for people to start. They want to start getting their products for free. And their initial goals sometimes may reflect their self-confidence and self-image. So it's important, again, as we've been sharing, that we tell them that, you know, a lot of times I say that an initial goal a great first goal would be to get to director. I think that's a great starting point. And what would it be like if you were able to have an extra couple $100 in your family's in bank account, what that could provide for you? And I also think that as a mentor, it's important that we help nudge their dreams just a little bit bigger, but not so big that it terrifies them. You know, we want to be careful not to say, you know, things like, well, what would it be like this first month to earn $10,000 in taxes? We know that although I guess it could possibly, you know, it would be very difficult to do. And so we want to make sure that we set realistic goals that they feel like they can attain and that are achievable. And I always tell people, too, we have a great fast track program. If you're looking to grow eagerly and quickly, but it will require working hard. And so they know that it's possible, but it's going to require hard work. And I think I love that when we have coaching goals is one thing that I've learned is to ask people, how much time do you have to develop your business this week? And what is one thing you're willing to give up or sacrifice? We talked about this at Global last year about sacrificing maybe TV time at the end of the night. There's a lot of times when our TV isn't on because I'm making calls or I'm on a webinar or I'm emailing people. Could you give up Facebook for a while, or could you give up whatever it is that you're doing? What's one thing that you can sacrifice in the business? And then how much time are you going to be able to devote to it? If somebody tells me that, they only maybe have 2 hours a week, well, then their goals are going to be a little bit smaller than somebody who says, I think I might have 5 to 10 hours this week to devote. Okay, and then help them to figure out what they're going to do with that time. Because sometimes when you're new, you go to sit down and you think, what am I supposed to do? I don't know what to do next. Do I work on scaling up? Do I work on calling somebody? What is it? And so one thing I also love is there's an app on your phone that you can get called Notepad or Evernote, and create a couple things that you're going to do each day and ask them, what are 3 to 5 things that you would like to accomplish in the day? And then it's not so overwhelming. Then it doesn't feel like they have a million things to do, but when you break it down, it becomes more attainable. And then remember, we're in the process of lifting up our self-esteem, also look for opportunities for them to speak and contribute and recognize them in newsletters and on Facebook. And when we do team calls, Harper does a really good job of asking other people to share what's working really well for them. And then, however, you will want to point out that building a business today in many ways is easier because of technology, tools, and resources. And I definitely agree with this. I was talking to Dr. Cheney yesterday, and I said, you can grow quicker now than ever before because of social media and because of technology and because we have this mobile phone that we can carry wherever we are and still work. So when you go on vacation or when you go to run an errand and you're sitting at the dentist's office, or when you're waiting for your kids to come out from school, you can make a quick phone call. It's all a great way of being able to build your business in a quick fashion. Manage expectations, prepare them for setbacks and disappointments and no-shows. We've all experienced that. We all know what that's like. And then stay focused on their goals. And Becky, I don't know if you want to contribute anything to this slide, too.
Yeah, I just, a couple of things about, the technology piece. One thing that I have so appreciated, because we've lived in 5 different states now, so we know people all over. And in fact, all of my people currently building a business are in a different state than I am. And so with Facebook events and different things, webinars, phone calls, the health story calls that we have, I am able to support them at a distance in a way that I've never been able to before, especially when I was more engaged in the business. It was definitely more in-person business years ago. And so it's just so helpful, and that I'm getting feedback that my downline is feeling supported, which is just great. So Francine and I are doing a Facebook event together tonight, and, we're teaming up on that, and it's just a really neat way to be able to do your businesses today. And then one other thing about managing expectations, if somebody has something that didn't turn out the way they wanted it to, I just really try to affirm that if you had everything go right, you actually wouldn't be a good leader, because you don't know what it's like then to have things not go the way you wanted them. And so it's so important that we remind them that this is all part of the process. It's all part of learning how to be a leader. You are actually preparing yourself for being able to train someone in the future, and that's all good. That we all know it's not going to be 100% all of the time. It just isn't. There are things that get in the way sometimes and don't turn out the way we wanted them to. But that's all part of our building to be a leader.
Good point. Great.
I love this quote that Barb found. It says, there will be obstacles, there will be doubters, there will be mistakes, but with hard work, there are no limits. And I love that, because we're all going to face that. We're going to face people who think we can't do it. We're going to face people who give us opposition. We're going to face the no's. We're going to face the people who aren't interested in the business. But we're also going to experience the best possible business with no limits. We have no limits in Shaklee, and that's what I love about this, is that the sky's the limit, and it truly is the limit. And then, Lisa, I think you're talking about the process that we can go through to create a 1,000 PV plan.
Okay, so when you're coaching with your leaders, and you do a couple of types of assessing. One, you're assessing them and where they're at and how they're thinking and how they're feeling and what they're dealing with. But when you get to the place where you've kind of got them, okay, and they're in a place to move, this is a great thing to do. You assess their business. So one of the things, and I have had some good experience with this with my upline, you can lay out you can say, okay, let's take a look at your group. Let's look for ways to increase PV. And so you lay out their group, and you start asking questions about, okay, who on your team might you want to talk about the business with, or who has tried this, and you create a strategy working with their business or with their list of people. So there's this assessment part that then gets very practical with people, and you can say, okay, what do you think would be really exciting? One of the things I used to do is print out my list, and I would highlight everyone on my list that only uses like nutrition. So I'd highlight them in blue, and then I would say, okay, I'm going to target this group of people. I want to help them using Get Clean, or I want to share InfuCell. And so then sometimes I would do it, and I would highlight the people that only had used Get Clean. And so it gave me a way to visualize what's happening.
Excellent idea.
Yeah.
Good idea.
And then I could create a strategy based upon what I see in front of me. And I would actually sometimes run little specials. I'm doing a Get Clean campaign. I'm helping all of my members realize that this is the best cleaning line in the world. And I would then create a little campaign for my group, knowing, oh my goodness, there's all these members that know nothing about this product line or this product line. Does that make sense? So it's just another way to assess and help them stimulate growth, and kind of, create, it's that creativity piece where you get in there and you start to create new ideas that they're excited about and how to reach out. And you can ask, I do this a lot. A lot of times I'll run across the master coordinator. I'll say, okay, when you're looking for new business leaders, where's the place you go the most? Hands down, they all say we go to our base group. We go to the members we have. It's the best place to find people that want to be referral partners or people that want to build a business. So don't overlook the groups you have in terms of getting some stuff started and stirred up and excitement in your business, because it's a great place to start. And then, of course, you can look at the list of people that aren't sponsored and create the same type of strategies, So hopefully that makes sense. And you can
Very
see
good. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just thinking, Cassie Anderson, and I were talking earlier this week about this, and I said we were talking about setting a goal for everybody, wherever you are in your business, to increase your volume by 1,000 PV. And I said, the way I think about it is, as you look at however many customers you have 6, you may have 60, I don't know wherever you are, and you want to expand, is I think about every customer that I have has a mother and a sister and a next door neighbor and a best friend, and everybody has a circle of people that they know. And so I always think in terms of developing clusters of customers, not a clothesline, right? Because there's only so many people that you can personally know. And I'm reminded years ago there was this famous then a cassette tape by Jim Burke, remember, about building in depth. And he did some calculation about every level down that he would meet people who were down under a customer, under a person, under a distributor, under, down. He would always find a business leader eventually, because there's a natural selection process that occurs by doing that. So it's just part of the strategy. And we have some sessions that you can go back and listen to where we've talked about that in more detail. Good. Okay.
Very good. And then I want to point out a couple of these past sessions that we have when you're working with these people. Remind them, if they want to, get better at inviting and they want to get better at that, remind them to go back to those teaming up sessions and just take a refresher course on that. So, all right. Becky.
Awesome. So all about just kind of a recap. We're checking in, we're problem solving, we're doing strategizing, and depending on where people are at in their business, how active they want to be, that might be weekly, it might be monthly. So it's just, again, knowing where your people are. And when you are in their lives, you're just staying informed, you're asking questions, you're being present, and the people, my uplines are so good at that. They're so good at just like what we talked about before, of letting people say where they're at, tell a little bit about what's going on with the family, the hard stuff, the good stuff, all of that. It's just really important for you to know as a coach. And then how do you feel about where you are in your business? Do they want to move forward? Are they stuck? Is nothing happening? Are they fine maintaining? Just that whole thing of tell me about. And then really brainstorming for them. And I really liked what I think Lisa and Barb had said, and even just your comment right there, Lisa, about the color coding. That's brilliant. But just do some strategizing with them about what other people are doing and how does that feel? Does that sound doable? Do you, does that excite you? Sometimes that's how I'll go by is, does that sound exciting to you? And especially when I have brand new distributors that were developing their 1,000 CV plan, I'll say, what are the things that you really love the most about Shaklee? Like, what do you gravitate to the most? And it might be the cleaners, it might be the nutrition. I'll say, then start there, because they're the most excited about it. And we know that people are drawn to, we are a magnet when we're excited about something. What they want to know, what are you excited about? And so that's a natural place to start, especially beginning people. And then just being ready to share some stories of other things that have worked for people, too.
Excellent.
Very good.
Katie.
All right. As you think through coaching through the obstacles, what is your role when your downline gets stuck? First thing we talked about is receiving them, let them empty their bucket, let them get out whatever they need to. The second thing, affirming, this is normal and we can handle it. I hear this a lot from Barb, very normal is what she often says whenever I say I'm stuck or whenever I get discouraged. And believe in you. List all they do well. Keep affirming them, all the things. I just think it's so amazing. I just saw the other day how you help somebody get on the Healthy Foundations, and just even little things, when they gain a customer and affirming that. Preserve, protect, and evaluate the self-esteem at every opportunity, because this can sometimes affect our self-esteem. It's very important that we stay grounded and that we remember that it's not about us, which can be hard. But when somebody chooses to not buy from us or not do the business with us, it's not about us. A lot of times there's another reason outside of us. And then brainstorm solutions. Come up with some inside-out coaching that we'll talk about on the next slide.
Okay, Lisa.
Okay, am I here?
Yeah, there we go.
I keep getting muted. Can you guys hear me now? Okay. So again, some of this is just a little bit of review, but what you're doing, again, when you're working with someone is you're doing a little bit of detective work. And so sometimes I'll say to people, we have this process and we know that it works, but if we're not getting the results we want, it's just a good idea to go back and evaluate and see where things might be breaking down or where we can tweak things and just come up with ideas so that your business is being as effective as you want it to be. And so again, this is just some of the things that we talked about. You just look at what they have, you assess how many members are ordering, and then try to figure out how you can improve some things. We do a lot of 90-day plans. I really think this is a good way to create some focus and clarity on action in the next few months. And so, create your strategy based upon that. As your leader is building, it's, I think, for all of us essential that we be reminded of the value of good member care and follow-up. It's one of those things that takes effort, to increase and to get good at. So it's just a way to kind of, again, evaluate, assess, and then help them work through what's going on, and then together you create the plan they're excited about and that they can move ahead and get some success and some growth in their business. So, all right.
Good.
Okay, so then you want to really always look at your relationship with your builders and make sure that your mindset is in the right place. You are not a boss or a teacher. You don't give assignments. You're not a parent. They are an independent business owner. You're their support. You are an associate. You're a partner. You're a friend. You're a place for them to kind of sound off and to bounce ideas off of. So make sure that you're really embracing and I think loving. Barb kind of talked about some things that happen in this process, and I think it's extremely satisfying to work in these ways, to utilize your creativity and help other people kind of uncover what's inside of them. So look for those talents and those abilities. Sometimes through the weeks, if I think about a leader and I think of something that they're doing that I'm really proud of, I'll write it down so that I make sure the next time I talk to them, I say, you know what, I am so impressed with you. Just create a good habit of that, of recognizing, identifying. Sometimes people have strengths they have no idea they have, and if you start to call them out and mention them, you're cultivating that strength even more. And so you're building their confidence and, again, letting them know that you believe in them so that they can start to believe in themselves and in their capacity, but you get to lead the way in that area. And it's fun.
Lisa, good stuff. And while you were talking, it reminded me, and I don't know if we touched on this, forgive me if we already did, but when we're doing a coaching session with somebody, we want to make sure we're taking notes also about what they're telling us and what, about the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever. So also we can refer back to that in the next coaching session. And
yes.
So we're not just trying to
keep a file.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, I think it's a good point, and I agree, because what happens as you grow, if you've got multiple leaders that you're working with, you find yourself mixing up your conversations a little bit.
Right.
And that's embarrassing.
Okay, Becky.
Right. Yep. So the major change that happened, I told you a little bit about it in the conversations with Barb, and then also being able to go to the January conference. One of my thinking patterns that was not healthy is that I had no problems getting members, but I felt like I really had a block with being able to have people that were interested in doing the business and sticking with it and building to director and beyond. And so Barb was really helpful in helping me kind of realize that I had abundance thinking when it came to my customers, but I really had limited thinking when it came to anybody with the business side. And so once you kind of see that and have that out there, you're like, well, that's not what I want to be thinking. And so then you can change your thinking, which is really helpful. But her questions just really helped me to stop and kind of think about and evaluate. And I remember one of the things I said was that I really wanted to help other people that were in the situation that I was 17 years ago, that wanted to be home with their kids but couldn't find a way to do that. And I thought, I know how to do that. I can help them do that. And then as I am sharing that with Greg, he then gave me an even bigger goal, and he said, I think that's great. He said, I'm thrilled for you to do that for other people, but he said, what I'd really like is for you to earn enough income in the next 4 to 5 years that you can bring me home and that I can retire early and do, he wants to do something else probably, but just to be able to have that freedom. And I would love to give that to him, and that is very motivating to me. And I will say that I have had goals in the past that I thought would be motivating to me. I was very specific about at one time that I wanted to buy a vacation home, and I wanted it to not only be for our family's use, but then I wanted to almost have it be like a ministry kind of thing, where if people needed a week off, that we'd say, hey, go stay at our place, and it's totally free. And I mean, I was very specific about it and all that. But guess what? It didn't compel me. And so you do have to kind of evaluate your goals and see if you come up with something that you feel like is compelling, see if it actually does make you do anything different. And if it doesn't, then you need to go back to the drawing board and see what else could it be. And so for me, what it really came down to, I think, was helping others, but also bringing my husband home. That is a huge motivator for me because I love him and I'd love to hang out with him more. So anyway, that was a little bit more details on that conversation with that.
We can maybe zip through this one, Joe. It's just the point that understand that people can get very busy being busy, and even being busy with shackling, but not be moving closer to their goals. So it's just something we want to be mindful of as coaches. So let's go back to Becky. And so Becky, as a result of being coached and having this change in thinking, which then led to change of your activity, would you share that with what did you take away from this experience that you're now bringing to your coaching with your new downlines?
Well, first of all, that it doesn't come natural. Even though I feel like I have had great coaching, I still feel like that is a skill that I'm learning to do with them. And so it's really helpful for me to have some of Barb's notes in front of me so that when I'm coaching other people that I can look at some of the questions that she did. And I don't know if other people struggle with this, but I'm a talker. I could fill up the whole time talking and never ask a question. And so it's just really good for me to be reminded to ask questions and then to have a few sample questions of what I could ask. And when you were talking about the organizational piece, Joe, about writing notes, I haven't quite fine-tuned this yet, but right now I just have one notebook that when I'm coaching people, I write the date and their name and what we discussed and kind of the action plan, and I have everybody in the same notebook. Now, maybe later I'll want to have a notebook for each person, but right now that's how I've done it, and it has worked really well. And so before our call, I can go back and reference what we said last week, and then I can ask them, how did that go? You said you wanted to do blank. So that's been really helpful. So just kind of being open to always being a student and always learning and being okay with taking notes and refreshing and revisiting things that even if I've experienced them, and that's one of the best ways I learn is to be modeled, but for some reason in that coaching place, it does seem like I'm so probably in the moment of being coached that I'm not taking in what they're doing.
Right.
So one thing you had said, Barb, that could be really helpful is to do a 3-way call where maybe one of your downlines is being coached by one of your uplines, and then you're in there then you can, it's not about you, so you can maybe be a little bit more present in listening to what the coach does. But I want to talk just a minute about affirmations, because that is one area that it just has totally changed my thinking, and it's done it before. It did at the beginning of my business, and it's doing it again now. I don't know how many of you are familiar with affirmations. Bob Ferguson has awesome information on it, but it's really just about putting positive thoughts in your head, but they're very specific. They need to be present tense, they need to be emotional, and they need to be what you want, okay? And they actually need to involve 3, I just put work ones on here, but they need to involve personal, spiritual, and work in order for them to really make a difference in your mind. And so first, I don't need to read these to you, but you can look at some of the things. And so I read these 3 times a day. And this is what I did at the very beginning of my business too. And of course, at the beginning, they were a little bit different. They were about, one of my hang-ups was that I thought the products were too expensive, that I wasn't going to be able to find anybody that would buy the products because I was frugal and most of my friends were frugal. And so I wrote an affirmation that was the complete opposite of that, these products have high value, and I love that I can share with people because we're paying for results. So now they're a little bit more, you can read through them to see what they are, but this really made it continues to make a difference on a daily basis.
I love that. And Becky, can I ask you real quick, would you repeat again the things that you said Bob Ferguson said? It had to be present tense, emotional, and what you want, and then it had to be spiritual, financial, and what was the last thing?
Personal.
Personal. So it's like something with your family, and then a spiritual part of you, and then this work piece. That all three of those together need to happen. Like if you just focused on work, it actually doesn't change your brain as much. And here's just a teeny background on that. Our subconscious believes that everything we think is true. Okay? Mm-hmm. So your mind always thinks you're right. And so if you are constantly telling yourself, I can't do this business, I can't do this business, I can't do this business, guess what? You're not going to be able to do the business because your actions and your brain are following through on all of that. So you have to change, do the opposite, write a positive thing about that, and you have to write it and think it in a way that it's happening right now. And what happens on a subconscious level is your brain's like, oh my gosh, she totally said this. She's always right. We better figure out how to do this.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
And
very
so
good.
It's a really interesting concept, but it's actually, Dr. Shackley talks about it, but then it's very biblical too, about we need to take control of our thoughts, and that that's actually one of the few things that we do have control over. Is our
That's right.
So we can do that, and it's really, really powerful, and I love the ones for my personal, my family, as well as for spiritual. Just really, they make a difference in those areas of your life too.
Very good. Thank you for sharing that. Gosh, you had such good stuff, Becky. I love it. Well, when we look at the role of a coach, and we've talked about lots of aspects, and I think we intuitively know that, different relationships are going to kind of take on different aspects, but you get to kind of look at the whole piece of what it means to be a coach and a mentor and building that relationship. And this is just a beautiful picture that Barb found that really encompasses a lot of that, that shows you kind of the full spectrum of what it is that you get to do. It's not just about goals and actions plans, but it really is about listening and helping them discover and getting feedback. And that relationship and that trust is so key because it sets the foundation where they're safe to open up. So this is just a fun picture that gives you an overview of that. So, all right.
Katie, our action steps for today.
All right. So if you're ready to grow, find a mentor or coach and be committed to coaching and learning. If you have distributors and or leaders ready for growth, ask them for feedback on how you can help them best. I always try and tell my team, let me know if there's anything I can do to help you. Let me know what I can do to help. And then or if you're looking for someone to model coaching, ask to listen in on a coaching session of other leaders that you admire, or set up a three-way coaching call with your downlines and upline mentor and absorb the dynamics of the call and what you can learn from them, and then begin to set up coaching appointments.
And that gets
Very nice.
That gets us moving, guys. Good. And Chris also told, thank you for today. You all have just brought so much to this important topic. And I just want to quickly point out the slide that's up there now is Chris and Michelle always get a lot of requests for us to have subscriptions to the Better Health in 31 Days website, and now our Better Future Starts Today website. And so they're so busy now developing their Shackley business because they've listened to these the material for the last 5 years, that they will open up and accept subscriptions for 2 hours after our Thursday morning training. So if you have been waiting and wanting to get on that, you can team up and get a subscription together, or you can get it yourself so it's personalized with your picture and your information. So thank you for doing that for us, Chris. So he takes the time to capture it and maintain that website. Joe, we do have some questions. Yes. I want to start with Carol Cash said,
yeah.
Could we just do an entire session of Lisa stories? Because she
I agree.
Cute. That's good.
You.
Right.
Suzanne asks, what is inside-out coaching? And that's a term that I first heard from Dan Henderson, and it's not, inside-out is the opposite of outside-in, where we are saying to somebody, you need to do this. If you would only get this done, this would happen. Where we're giving people what they need to do. Inside out is what we did today. It's about asking questions, finding out where people are at, what are they comfortable with, what would they like to improve. So we're helping them to realize the things that need to be done and not telling them what to do.
Very good, yes. The way Dan put it, he said, outside in coaching is, I know, you don't, shut up and listen.
Right, yes.
Guys have a way of just cutting right to the chase. And inside-out coaching is what everybody has been describing today. It's when, in partnership, together, we figure it out. Mm-hmm. And you ask the questions that may help stimulate everybody's thinking about it. So it recognizes that all of us have this ability. I'll tell you, my only fear when we were talking about this topic today is that you would think, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do this. Mm. And if there's one thing I would say to you is becoming a leader is an ongoing learning process. You know, I've been in business 40 years. I think Joe about the same. Mm-hmm. And I learn constantly. I choose to learn. I want a leader is a continual learner. So it means always having a book on leadership around. Always, it means taking the time to listen to podcasts and other things that people are doing. There's a million things. You want to spend your life just being a student either, but you got to put it into action. But you want to be aware of who's growing and who has interesting ideas, and you want to read articles and be on interesting podcasts. We're always bringing that to you here on Thursday mornings of things that we're learning outside of the Shaklee world. That's how you begin to trust then your instincts, your intuition, your ability, but the more stories you know, you'll trust that your brain will pull up the story that might give us some insights for the situation you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And so, and when you're stuck, then bring in another mentor. You're not limited to one,
right.
And I think Becky said when she started, she had 87 uplines, that she could call upon. And so that's why we all work as a team, including here. When you're a part of Thursday mornings, you're a part of this team, and we all kind of brainstorm together. That's how these Thursday morning come about. It's not any one person's information. It's all of us together contributing what we're learning. So that's the beauty of it, isn't it? And that's the fun of the business, I think, as well. Then people asked about affirmations at bobsfiles.net. He's got a lot of stuff there people are referring to. Thanks, Mary Kinley says that she loved, Becky, your explanation of the brain, and she says the exact formula for creating the affirmation cards is at bobsfiles.net.
Good. Lisa, someone wants to know how you figured out what products people use. SBOSS, back office.
There is a way to do it, but honestly, I don't work that hard at it. I can generally print out my list, and now I can't, but back in the day, now it's a little bit big. I could remember who came to what kind of meeting. You know what I mean? I have a feel for it. I think if you look at your members, you're going to have an idea of who came to a Get Clean meeting, who came to a nutrition meeting. If you really want to know the details, you can go and you can pull up order history under each individual. It doesn't have to be exact, but when I think when I started doing this, you have an idea. You kind of recall. Right. I try to remember who's done. We have a CD program. Who's done the CD program? Every year I go back and I offer to my members that haven't done it for years. Hey, I've got new CDs. Would you like to do it again? That kind of stuff. But if you have a couple of colored highlighters and your member list printed out, you can create a picture of what to do by just grouping people in what
excellent idea.
What you know. Yeah.
Very good. Would some of you like to comment on Let's see, there's a question here from Rebecca Colby about how do you coach someone to really dive into their why and goals that will really motivate to reach their goal, like how Becky realized her vacation home wasn't really something to drive her and how she identified what did. Yeah, you want to take that on, Beck?
Well, and I think it probably is just continuing to ask questions. And I think about sometimes the infamous question from Dr. Phil, how's that working for you? And so it's like, if that, whatever the process is.
Once again, men cut to the chase. They cut right to the chase.
Exactly. But if no one asked, well, Becky, you said that was your goal. You've had that for 4 months or something. Has it compelled you? I mean, no one coached me that way, but it just was amazing to me, the difference when I had a different why of how I responded so differently and how I wanted to pull out my affirmation, rewrite those affirmations. I mean, it just was, you'll know it when you hit upon it because you actually start moving.
Don't you think,
I don't know,
Becky, too, that it helps having a conversation with somebody where they might be asking you some questions, just like, if you could design your day any way you wanted to, what would your day look like? Or what would be the ideal life for you? Would you?
Absolutely.
So it's a matter of having a conversation where someone's asking you questions, and then all of a sudden, like you said, things start to come to you. You realize what it is that you're looking for.
Last spring of 2013, the first week of April, whatever that session was called, it was called something about spring or springing into action or something like that. That was when we had just come back from that training with that Sherlaw's group. And I remember we did a whole session about those questions, Joe. It was about getting clear about your identity as a person and what you wanted your life to be about. There were some very good questions there, but what many of you are asking here is how do you motivate somebody who's inactive? Guess what?
The answer is in the question.
Right. Now here's something. I mean, and this is what takes some thinking, is Becky was at a place where she was in maintenance for a long time, right? And so when I would call her and she wasn't ready, I just said, tell me where you're at. Oh my gosh, we're just moving and we had this and there was this thing and Greg got a new job and blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay, sounds like you're not in a place where you're looking to expand your business. No, I'm just maintaining it's just great. Fine. Goodbye. Right? Talked to a woman earlier this week, whatever today is. Anyway, and it's because she had said, I want to build a business to her upline. We called her and we said, okay, well, tell me about where you are in your life and where she was in her life. I could tell after the first 2 minutes she was at a very bad place in her life. She wasn't handling her life well at all. She had a new child. She was a baby. She wasn't dealing with that well. She sounded depressed and very low energy. And you know what? And the purpose of that call was to strategize to create a 1,000 PV plan. What ended up happening is I said, you know what? It just doesn't sound like you're at a place where you are ready to do that. Why don't we give you a little time to get these things in order of what you're doing there, and then when you are ready, let us know. Now, that was so helpful, because her upline could have spent a lot of time trying to get her to do stuff, and she just isn't there. She just wasn't ready. On the other hand, the next person we called, she had great energy and she loved the products and she loved the idea of a Shaklee business, but she was homeschooling her kids and her husband had a landscaping business and she helps him now that's getting busy in the spring, and she had something else that was going, and she was pregnant with a third child, and on and on and on. It would have been very easy in that case to say, look, sounds like you got a lot going on. But there was something about the way she was answering the questions that I heard. I loved her energy, and I heard her love of Shaklee and the products and the idea of the business. And so I tried one more thing to run by her. And I ran an idea by her. I said, well, I'm just thinking about, all these different communities of people that because you are so busy. I said, there's that whole community now of homeschool community that you're a part of. And she immediately picked up on it. And she said, hey, you know what? They're all very health conscious. And then she picked up the ball and ran with it. And by the end of that conversation, she was making a list of all the people she knows. Now she was seeing how she could tuck a Shaklee business in to her busy life just by utilizing the people that she knew in the circle she was in. So I don't know if you hear the difference in that, but it's like you test the waters and then you make a decision. They're either a red light or a green light.
Yeah, and if you've had a couple of coaching sessions with somebody and you're asking a lot of questions, you're finding out where they're at, what their thinking is, what would they like to do next, and together, like Barb said, in partnership, you come up with some activities that they need to start to do, like they need to have a launch event, whether it's Facebook or in real life. They need to make their, first of all, they need to make their list and then if they're not doing any of those things, their actions tell you where they really are at.
It's a checker game then. Yeah, Becky?
Yeah, I wanted to add something to that. That's all, of course, excellent. And one thing that it just made me think of, just because of being someone that has been in maintenance for so many years, it always comes back to us. And it's interesting that things started moving after I changed first. And I think part of it was that I had to change my mind to open my mind up to be ready to grow. But then also, Barb, what you have pointed out to me, that abundance thinking versus limited thinking, that it's okay if some of our people aren't ready, because you know what, we're a magnet and we're going to find someone else who is. And so we can graciously love them where they're at. And there's going to be someone else that's going to serve us because we are being a magnet now. And it's just funny when you see that play out in your own life, but it's totally the way it worked. So.
That Lisa Farker Stocker, she was talking about perception checking. I thought that was an interesting label to put on what we were talking about earlier. Go ahead, Joe. You had something.
Well, I just want to say, Suzanne Fleming is asking if there will be new registration needed for the June-July session. And no, the emails will, or just the same the same thing you're using.
Notifications. I think that's the word we're looking for.
Thank you. Yes, the same one will work, and you'll continue to get notifications.
Good. Okay. And by the way, we're sorry about that scraping, and there must be something inside the computer line or the cable line at my end that's doing that. We don't know what it's not windy outside. I don't, but I'm gonna check that out.
Or your headset, maybe when you're in a turn your head or something.
Well, I am being like a statue.
That's what I was going to say.
Yes, and so I checked that out because I wasn't moving anything, and I was hearing it. So
you're moving your lips.
My lips.
I almost quit breathing. I was holding so still over here.
I know. It's like, I think it's inside, and I even tried like plugging and unplugging it. So I think it's inside a cable line or something.
I think you're right.
I'm going to check it out. Yeah.
We might want to mention, too, the perks of regionals, what somebody will receive if they bring a guest and they sign up for a gold pack.
Good point, Katie. What will they receive?
Let's see. Hopefully I'll get this right. But for bringing anybody to the regionals, if you sign up with a gold pack, depending on what gold pack you sign up with, you are eligible for a regiment kit. I believe it's the Healthy Foundations if you do a gold pack, and then a gold plus is, somebody help me out, something else, even bigger. And I think they're also doing something with, Lisa, I don't know if you know about this, but with the Vitalized immunity samples as well for coming on Saturday. My understanding from what I read.
They have lots of perks when you come to regionals and when you bring guests. And one of the other questions they were asking is, if you bring a guest to Friday night, do they have to pay the $39 to attend? And the last time I thought the guests were free. You have to pay.
Right.
Obviously,
right. Anyone who's not a Shaklee member yet.
Right. And then if they could come back the next day, then you can register them. So, yes, there's a lot of perks to attend the regional, and there's this weekend it's in New York, and next weekend it's in Chicago. So they're going to be. I think Dr. Jamie might be speaking this week in New York, and Dr. Daggy is going to be at the one in Chicago, and Lisa
Next
Anderson
weekend.
is going to be at the one in Chicago.
Yes,
yay! And
It's gonna be a
Rebecca
party.
or Ashley McDonald, we had her as a guest here a few weeks ago. It's going to be a really good turn. Mike Coogan, right, is speaking.
Yay.
And
He has a cameo.
he has a great story, and he has a really inspiring story. I'm so glad he's speaking.
Yeah.
Very good. All right.
Fun.
He is the first male in his family in 5 generations to have lived long enough to know his grandchildren.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Is that powerful?
Yeah. Thank you, Shaklee. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
And he came into Shaklee because of the business. Remember Joe's story, because they were both teachers.
Yeah.
And so it was the income potential, and to try to ease some of the financial burden. Little did he know that it would impact his life and his health so dramatically. It's a really powerful story. And very cool. Oh, gosh. Okay. Anything else on here? Oh, Mary Steen said she heard the scraping on her computer, too.
Yeah, it's coming through the mic. That's why I think it's something in your mic.
No, because I hear it in my ear. See, that's why it's not on the head. Because if you have noise, then you don't hear it.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing it coming from when you all speak, it's coming from inside my computer.
Mary says that she did not hear the scraping noise. I can see questions today. This is really fun for me. But I feel so much
she
more
did
than
not
that.
hear the scraping sound.
She did not hear the scraping sound. But I do know that I did hear some background noise too. It sounded like some shuffling and some block building. That's what I heard.
Or maybe somebody was printing something.
Yeah. So anyways.
No, I don't know.
I was quiet. I don't know.
There was nobody in the office. It's all quiet. Well, I'm going to figure this out. It's a mystery. Okay. So, all right, everybody, thank you. Anything else?
See them next week. We have 2 sessions left now in April.
And next week, the plan right now is that subject to change is that depending on if Katie is available to talk about the road to executive coordinator. If not, we've got that pending when she is available. But we're going to talk about 1,000 PV generating ideas again next week. Only this in terms of May and using MQCell and our amazing skincare line.
And so maybe some of the Mother's Day supplement collections. And so we'll be talking about how to generate 1,000 PV, and we'll be giving you May strategies for that. Okay, great. So it's always good to talk about increasing PV by 1,000 as you're coming into the summer months, because sometimes PV isn't as even in the summer as people are traveling and so on. Great. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week. Thank you, Becky Cho. Thank you, everybody.
Katie and Martha, Crystal, everybody today. Thanks. All right.
Have a super week, everyone. Goodbye.
Everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.